Adapting activities that we've used on campus to an online course is pretty challenging as a chemistry professor. We have a lot of lab courses that students go in and they talk to a TA. They get their hands dirty in the lab and they learn about laboratory experience as chemistry students. And we can't really reproduce that very well in an online course. And so I have managed to find a company that will produce lab kits in a box where the students can do chemistry experiments on their kitchen table. And I was able to design a custom kit based on the labs we've done in our on-campus course, and that the students can hopefully get some idea of how a practicing chemist would experience things. It's certainly not the same as an on-campus course, but we've tried to reproduce that into the distance learning online format.
So for example, in my environmental planning class, and I also do a public participation class, I would have quite a few guest lecturers come in, and I was asking the same people to come year after year, and I felt sort of bad about it, but sometimes people seem to enjoy it. So I said, well, how about you come and let me video you doing the lecture instead? So I will have them do their PowerPoint like they've always done, and then I just record it using Camtasia on my laptop. And I think they feel a little weird about it at first, but they warm up just like they would in front of a group of students. And that was the biggest adaptation I had to make because I had several courses that I taught in a traditional format for several years before they went online. And I didn't want to lose the continuity of the courses. You know, students that had taken in the past, I didn't want them to think, well, it's so different now. So that was one thing that I did. The lectures that I used to give in face-to-face courses, I just simply recorded them. You know, I update them from year to year, and I do make new videos every year for those. But that was a pretty seamless transition as well.
I have found online teaching to eliminate some of the frustrations that I have experienced on campus, because on campus I expect my students to come to class having read material and also completed some tasks to show that they have read the material, and then I want them to get into learning teams in class. And during class on campus, a lot of students will come unprepared. They can't do that online. It's pretty clear they're either prepared or they're not prepared, and I establish deadlines, so if they don't meet one task, they can't complete the next task. And what that has done is it has motivated students to be prepared, and when students are not prepared, it impacts other people. So that has made a huge difference. So the one thing that I had to do is during class on campus, I usually have them give presentations in front of the class. Online, it was great because I could have them create a video at home, and then they could be in different groups for peer and self-assessment of the videos. And it wasn't like in class where people get dialed out and don't pay attention. It was like people had to complete. What I found also is that students did a better job. You know, because in class a lot of times they're on this, got to complete this task, you know, this is okay, you know, for now. But online, it's going out to an audience, and I think that that makes a huge difference. I have seen better work in my online classes than I have in class.
One of the online classes I teach is an interviewing class, and when I do the face-to-face class, we of course do mock employment interviews. So my challenge was, how do I give the students that same experience and that same feel? Well, one thing to consider is that anymore, so many students are being interviewed through the internet, whether or telephone or through Skype or something similar to that. So what I did for that component of the interviewing class is we used something that is very similar to Skype. It's a product called Movi, and students have to download the software, which is for free from Ball State, and I schedule everyone through our distance ed department.
Now some courses, for example my public participation course, is designed to teach students how to deal with the public, because as urban planners or landscape architects or architects, students are going to have to know how to deal with the public in the process of getting plans approved someday. And so a fun adaptation that I made there, rather than talking about it so much in a class or doing mock presentations like we would have in a traditional class, they go to actual public meetings in whatever city they happen to live in. And then they report back on what they learned. So they actually have a lot of fun with that. And it works out because we have quite a few students in our department who will go away for an internship. So they need those online classes to round out their schedule. And then we get more of a variety that way of meetings, so they're not overlapping too much with everybody else who's in Muncie or Indianapolis, for example. We might get students who are going to a big public meeting in Chicago or Omaha even, and it makes it more interesting for everybody.
Design courses in the flesh are very interactive. Of course, we make use of verbal resources, but also graphics, gesture. It is a very media-rich environment that is very difficult to replace with only text or only graphics or a PowerPoint with a voiceover. So we rely heavily on face-to-face through GoToMeeting or WebEx or any other form of video conferencing. In general, the idea is to replicate what we do in reality. We say it's face-to-face. In reality, we call it in the flesh because certainly there is a limitation. We cannot touch physical models, for instance, in the distance ed option. Yet we can show them, we can manipulate them, we can share desktops, we can share software. But there is certainly a limit. So I think we replicate most of the features of in the flesh encounter.
I think online teaching has come a long way from when I first started. It used to be this very sort of quiet space where there's something happening between the instructor and a student. It's now this very dynamic, engaged learning environment that still has the rigor of a traditional classroom setting, and I think that's huge. What I've learned over the course of the years is that we can still get the same outcomes. I can still identify the same outcomes that I would in other environments. So being in that online world helps so many of our diverse students who are in multiple places and multiple times get the level of instruction that they need and they want in a time and a space that works for them. Not all of our students are available at the same time, so having an opportunity to work when you can and engage in the content of the literature or whatever it is that we're trying to instruct in a time and space that's meaning for them is absolutely wonderful. It also provides a safe place for students to dialogue about some of the difficult content that might be associated, for example, with a diversity course or a multicultural counseling course in a way that may be a little different in the face-to-face environment. So, for example, when I'm teaching multicultural counseling or a diversity course face-to-face, I notice that some students are really shy about expressing their views. In some ways, I find that online environment makes it a safer place for students to dialogue about these difficult content issues, and it's wonderful.